Hello, fight fans, and welcome to another edition of Monday Night Fight Talk. I am your host, Dylan Brewski, and we have an action-packed show for you today because holy crap, UFC London lived up to every little bit of the hype. That was 100% so far this year in 2022. That was the best fight card without a doubt. It was action-packed. 9 of the 12 fights ended in a finish. 7 in the first round. And even the 3 decision fights were awesome. They were action-packed. There was never a point where you're like, wow, this fight is insanely boring. They were all just go, go, go the entire time. And, of course, when you get a 75% finish rate on a fight card, that's always going to be an exciting night. But, I just want to dive straight into this because there's so much to talk about from this fight card. But I will also be giving my fight predictions for the fight night this next week, headlined by Curtis Blaydes and Chris Daukaus. But I'm going to start off with my reaction to UFC London that happened 2 days ago. Headlined with Tom Aspinall and Alexander Volkov. This was the toughest test by far for Tom Aspinall. He's very young in his fight career. Alexander Volkov is a veteran of this game. He has faced the best of the best, and he's beaten some of the best people that have ever stepped foot in the heavyweight division for the UFC. So this was a humongous test for Tom Aspinall, and he passed it with insanely flying colors. The hand speed this guy has is absolutely insane for a heavyweight. I believe they said that he lands 7 significant strikes per minute as a heavyweight, and the UFC average for everyone is 3. For a heavyweight to have that much output is absolutely insane. And to top that all off, he won by submission with great grappling against Alexander Volkov, who has great takedown defense. He's 6'7" and he has gnarly kicks. You don't really want to get in the range of Alexander Volkov because he's so dangerous with his striking. But Tom Aspinall was unbelievable. It was nearly an impeccable performance, and he finished it off with a round 1 armbar, a straight armbar on a guy as strong as Alexander Volkov is also just absolutely terrifying if I'm anyone in that heavyweight division. Tom Aspinall passed this test with flying colors, and I think he is going to absolutely skyrocket in the rankings. I wouldn't be surprised if they put him where Alexander Volkov was at the number 6 spot. I was thinking around the 5 to 7 range for Tom Aspinall after that performance. And he did call out Tai Tuivasa, another up-and-coming heavyweight. And I have to say, I am 1,000% here for that fight. I will be tuned in with the popcorn, with whatever, because that will be the most exciting fight in this heavyweight division. If I was the UFC, I would have tried to sign this contract before Tom Aspinall left O2 Arena on Saturday. That is how hyped this fight would be. And it's the perfect fight to make. Both of them haven't really done enough to be in the heavyweight picture. They've had huge wins, but they're still just one fight away for me before they can get to that heavyweight championship, face Francis Ngannou, or if the title changes by that time, face whoever is up for the title. But man, both of these guys have been completely impressive. I'm a little bit more impressed by Tom Aspinall. Tai Tuivasa he's a powerhouse and he can take a punch, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if we're talking about pure technical fighting ability, Tom Aspinall might be the best heavyweight right now. It's him or Surrogan about the best technical heavyweights that we have in this division. But like I said, there's just so much to go off of this card. The co-main event, Arnold Allen showcases against Dan Hooker. And to get Dan Hooker on a first round TKO for the second time you rocked him, I mean, this is the same Dan Hooker that's been going up against Michael Chandler, Islam Makhachev, some of the best people in the lightweight division. He went the distance with Dustin Poirier, who knocked out Conor McGregor. So, I mean, that just goes to show the power that this guy has faced, Dan Hooker, and to go down a weight class to face a guy like Arnold Allen, who's on this tremendous win streak, extends it to 9 with an almost impeccable performance against Dan Hooker. I know during the first time that he rocked Hooker actually rocked him back, and there was a little bit of both of them were a little dizzy there, but I mean, other than that, Arnold Allen was flawless. His striking is so precise. He's so accurate with everything. And I think that this projects him right into the championship picture. I do think he needs one more fight. He called out Calvin Kattar, which would be an unbelievable fight. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if he got anyone in the top 5 of the featherweight division at this point, because obviously Volkanovski he's not going to get next. Volkanovski's the champ, and he's facing the Korean Zombie, who's number 4 right now. But if you put him against a Max Holloway, a Yair Rodriguez, I mean, there's so many people in that division that you could put him up against right now, and it would be a completely justified fight. I mean, this guy's been in the UFC for 8 fights, and he's won every single one of them. And this is his biggest test yet. And again, just like Tom Aspinall, he passed it with flying colors. So I definitely think a top 5 contender is in his near future. And if he can get past a top 5 contender, no matter who it is, I think that skyrockets him right into the championship picture. And I wouldn't be surprised within a couple fights if Arnold Allen was fighting for the featherweight championship. And then for one of the greatest walkouts, one of the greatest crowd reactions I have ever seen, Paddy Pimblett. I mean, that arena was electric when he came out. It was unreal, the crowd reaction, how hyped they were for Paddy Pimblett. I mean, going back to the Arnold Allen fight, people were still chanting Paddy the Baddy during Arnold Allen's fight, who is arguably a bigger... Actually, it's not arguable. Arnold Allen's way closer to a championship fight and should be hyped more than Paddy Pimblett. But Paddy's got the personality. He loves to get the crowd involved, and you can tell, I mean, that was unbelievable, and you could tell how hyped everybody was because Kazula Vargas, he didn't look too bad in this fight. I know at one point he actually caught Paddy Pimblett with a great right hand, and you could feel the air out of the arena just get sucked out because everybody was like, oh, he might get knocked out here. But Paddy Pimblett, he stayed composed. He was able to get him into his guard, work his way back up to the feet, get a takedown, get his back, eventually got the rear naked choke synced in, which, I mean, once Paddy Pimblett gets on your back, you're basically toast. He had that choke locked in very, very quickly and got the first round victory and continues the hype train of Paddy Pimblett. And then we also had the return of Gunnar Nelson. He was out for a very, very long time with a reoccurring rib injury. It was just nasty. He just didn't fight for a long time. But holy crap, that was a masterclass of grappling. He had control of Takashi Sato for almost the entire fight. I have to give props to Sato also for not getting submitted. I've never seen someone have a body triangle on someone's back for that long and not get choked out or get finished in any way. So I do want to give a little bit of props to Sato, even though he did get thoroughly dominated in this fight. But you also got to give major props to Gunnar Nelson. He looked absolutely flawless against a very dangerous striker in Sato. It was just a masterclass of grappling again. And yeah, I mean, dominant win for Gunnar Nelson. And then the knockout of the year so far, and it might still be there at the end of this year. Molly McCann with the spinning back elbow to completely knock out Carolina, sorry. And I mean, in front of the hometown fans, she is Patty Pimblett's teammate. The roof blew off the building when she hit that spinning back elbow. And I gotta say, that might be the first time I've seen a female get completely knocked out, like sleeping knocked out from one hit. And it was a nasty spinning back elbow. But other than that, I mean, Molly McCann dominated the entire fight. The spinning back elbow happened in the third round. Molly McCann was dominating that whole fight. And Carolina had like a 6-inch reach advantage at least. It might have been closer to 8-inch reach advantage. And Molly McCann just kept putting the pressure on her, and she kept getting inside to where Carolina couldn't use her reach advantage at all. But major props to Molly McCann. I know a lot of people are saying it was cringe for her to jump out and grab the plastic belt and run around. And yeah, I mean, she beat an unranked fighter. But also, she's in her hometown. It was a humongous win for her. It was a great knockout. I say let her have her fun. I'm not going to go too hard on her for celebrating a great victory. And then another great knockout happened right before that. Ilia Topuria, a lot of controversy surrounding him recently. Him and Patty Pimblett actually got into it during fight week at the hotel. And you could tell when he came out that the crowd knew about that because he got booed very heavily. And he was facing another English fighter in Jay Herbert. Not going to lie, in that first round, I thought Herbert had him. He caught him with a great left high kick. Got him right on the chin, and he dazed Topuria very badly. But great awareness by Topuria. He was able to grab a leg before Herbert could get too much damage done. Grab a leg, get him on the ground. He was able to recover, make it to the second round, and then just an absolute nasty combination. He had him with a right, left body shot, got him to drop his arms with the body shot, and then just cracked him with the right and slept him completely. And then proceeded to call out Patty Pimblett after the fight, which, I mean, I gotta be honest, with how they were all of fight week, with how much animosity it seems to be between those two, I'm here for that fight. A lot of people think Topuria is far superior to Patty Pimblett, and for what I've seen, I might have to agree with them. Granted, Pimblett's only been in 2 UFC fights, and we don't know. He could step up to the plate for this fight, but right now, Topuria, from what I've seen, has been utterly dominant in the UFC. So I gotta say, if they did fight right now, I would have to give the edge to Topuria, but you never know what could happen. And then with the prelims, I mean, Amir Khani has a great fight to end his losing streak. I believe it was on a 3-fight losing streak. That wasn't the biggest story, though. Obviously, Mike Grundy, he had found out that his dad had a terminal illness, and his dad was in the crowd. He had the crowd behind him. It was very emotional. But you still have to give major props to Amir Khani. Grundy came out very aggressive, tried to take him down, which he ended up doing. But Amir Khani is just insane with that anaconda choke. And he was able to sink it in and got the submission. So while it sucks to not see Grundy get that big win in front of his dad, but you gotta still give props to Amir Khani. They're both great fighters, but Amir Khani had the better day. He caught him in that choke, and it was so early. I mean, you're not slippery, you're not sweaty at all. There was almost no getting out of that choke for Grundy. So huge props to Amir Khani. Sergey Pavlovich, I mean, after 2+ years off, we haven't seen this guy fight since 2019, and the power has not gone away whatsoever. He was able to knock out Abrahimov. I want to apologize. I actually said his name wrong in the last episode, but I got it now. Abrahimov, not Abarakimov or whatever I said. But it was definitely a questionable stoppage. But at the same time, Abrahimov was just kind of sitting there and letting Pavlovich punch him in the head. And when a ref sees that and you're not moving around, you're not trying to get a better position, 9 times out of 10, they're going to stop the fight. But it was a great uppercut to start that whole transition into the ground game. Pavlovich caught Abrahimov with a great straight uppercut, and I just gotta say it was a great comeback win for Pavlovich in this fight, and that might put him back in the rankings. I know he was in there, he just got dropped out, but that was more because of his inactivity. He hasn't fought since 2019. So we might see him back in the rankings after that performance. And then Paul Craig, man, that guy is insane. The quickness that he is able to do, his submissions, his jiu-jitsu is absolutely insane. He was getting dominated by Krylov in that fight. Krylov had him on the ground. He rocked him. Had him on the ground, rocked him a few times on the ground with some great hammer fists, and then all of a sudden, in 1 second, bam, Paul Craig locks in the triangle choke and wins. It was literally losing, I believe it was like a 4-minute fight, and Paul Craig probably lost 3 minutes and 55 seconds of that fight. He was getting dominated by Krylov, and then all of a sudden, bam, the triangle choke. And he was able to get a win. Big comeback win for Paul Craig. And Krylov, unfortunately, stays on the losing side. But this could definitely put Paul Craig in a higher ranking. He called out Anthony Smith after the fight, which I would say that's a great fight to do. But also, I was on here last week, I believe it was, saying that Magomed Ankalaev should be fighting Anthony Smith next because they're both top 5. I think that's better for Ankalaev. But also, if they gave it to Paul Craig, I wouldn't be too upset. If they had Paul Craig and Magomed Ankalaev fight, I think that would be a great fight also. And then a great fight by Jack Shore. He was able to beat out Valiev in a close decision. I believe most of the judges scored it as a 29-27. So not too close because of the third round. Jack Shore thoroughly dominated Valiev. But I honestly was surprised that they didn't give this a performance bonus for fight of the night because I thought it was by far the best fight, at least closest fight. Jack Shore was able to come back in rounds 2 and 3. Valiev had a great round 1. And I believe all the judges gave him credit for that. But I think Jack Shore might have just secured his top 15 ranking in a absolutely stacked bantamweight division after beating the veteran Valiev in a very good, very impressive fashion for him. And then another women's fight, Ellie Reed wins a controversial split decision over Corey McKenna. And this isn't your typical controversial split decision. I think it's more controversial that it was a split decision and not a unanimous decision. One judge gave Corey McKenna all 3 rounds, had her winning 30-27, while the other judges had it 29-28. I think in rounds 1 and 2, Ellie Reed had the better round, and then McKenna would get like a takedown with 30 seconds left and then do not much at all. I definitely leaned more towards the 29-28 because McKenna did have a great third round. She had, I believe, over 2 minutes of ground control time. So I'm happy to give McKenna round 3. But rounds 1 and 2, I thought easily went to Ellie Reed. She had way more significant strikes. And if it wasn't for the takedowns with 30 seconds left, where she wasn't able to do anything in 30 seconds, Ellie Reed easily won those 2 rounds. So kind of controversial to give that a split decision, to give McKenna all 3 rounds. But overall, I think the right lady won. Ellie Reed had a great fight. Then the first fight of the night, we had an absolute great debut for Muhammad Mokaev. I mean, holy crap, gets the submission in under a minute against Cody Durden. This kid's 21 years old. And he came in and passed his debut in front of his home crowd with flying colors. It was unreal when he hit that flying knee and then transition, ended up getting the guillotine choke submission win. Absolutely impressive performance by Muhammad Mokaev. I have to give humongous props to him, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for this kid. Again, he is 21 years old. Do you know how many fighters we have that are 21 years old? I think he's one of 2 in the UFC right now. It's absolutely insane. He has the chance to honestly break John Jones' record for youngest UFC champion. The flyweight division is not that deep. So he just needs a few signature wins. If he can stack up these wins very quickly, I think it would be a perfect opportunity to get a young guy in there, a guy who can dominate this division for a long time. Because if he does anything to the higher ranked that he was able to do to Durden in this fight, he has an absolutely bright future in this industry, in the UFC. I can't wait to see how far his career takes him. Again, that's all the fights from the London card. And again, I just can't express enough how amazing this fight card was. It was unbelievable. I would be shocked if there was a fight card that was able to surpass this one for the card of the year at the end of the year. I know that's not like an official award, but there are some UFC podcasts that do MMA awards like that. And right now, you have to give it to UFC London. And again, it's going to be very, very tough to surpass that one. But now I want to get into the more prediction side of things. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we have a fight night coming up this next weekend, headlined by Curtis Blaydes and Chris Daukaus. So second straight weekend of heavyweight headliners. This one's a very interesting matchup. We have Curtis Blaydes trying to prove that he still belongs in the top 5. He's still got it. He's probably the best wrestler overall, and at least from the heavyweight elite side of things. And he's trying to prove that. He's trying to stay up there while Daukaus is trying to bounce back. He got beat pretty handily by Derek Lewis in his last fight. Granted, Curtis Blaydes lost to Derek Lewis 2 or 3 fights ago also, so nothing to really shame him about, but Blaydes is just, like I said, a fantastic wrestler. I mean, probably the best wrestler in this division, and has tremendous ground and pound. Plus, I think he's going to try to use that to his advantage. He's going to try to get this fight to the ground and just wear down Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus has shown that he can go the distance. He's never gone the full 5 rounds, but I think Chris Daukaus will try to end this fight early. He has tremendous power. He fights a lot like the Tai Tuivasa, the Derek Lewises of this division. So I see him trying to end this fight very early. But I do believe that Blaydes wrestling will be too much for Chris Daukaus. I think that it will come in heavy in this fight. And I don't think Curtis Blaydes is going to try anything crazy. I don't think he's going to get reckless and try to do crazy takedowns or put himself in bad positions. I think he's just going to take it to the ground when he can and just wear down Chris Daukaus and eventually get the 4th round TKO. Because like I said, the ground and pound is there for Chris Daukaus, and it's tremendous. And I think the longer this fight goes on, Daukaus is going to get really tired. He's going to get really worn down, and that's going to work straight into Curtis Blaydes' game plan of trying to do exactly that and wear him down. We also got a top 10 matchup in the women's flyweight division, Joanne Wood versus Alexa Grasso. This one's definitely going to probably stay on the feet. These are two tremendous strikers between the both of them. Grasso's coming in really hot. She's won 3 of her last 4, and the only loss is coming against Carla Esparza, who's fighting for the strawweight championship in May. So, I mean, there's no shame in losing to Carla Esparza, especially in the recent years, because Carla Esparza has been absolutely dominant. Wood is trying to bounce back, though. She's been on the losing side of things, dropping 3 of her last 4. Granted, all 3 opponents that she lost to are now ranked in the top 5. But I think in the end, Grasso has the momentum on her side, and I think that she's going to get this win by decision. I just think these ladies are more precision strikers. They're not very powerful. I don't see them either one getting a knockout, but I do see a lot of strikes being landed. I see a high volume of strikes being landed, just higher by Alexa Grasso. So I believe she will get the win and continue her hot streak and continue to climb the flyweight rankings. The next fight I want to talk about, probably the fight that I am most excited for. I think it also has the most implications for that division. Askar Askarov versus Kai Kara-France. I think this may lead to the next title fight in all reality if the UFC doesn't want to do Moreno versus Figueiredo 4. I mean, I can't believe I'm actually saying a 4th fight, because we never see anything like a 4th fight. But I don't know how the UFC feels about doing the 4th fight just yet. So I could definitely see the winner of this fight, especially if it's Askarov, getting into that title picture. Askarov's been dominant since he's joined the UFC. He's won 3 out of his 4 fights. The only other one was a draw, so he's still kind of undefeated in the UFC. And he's definitely more comfortable on the ground. He has great jiu-jitsu, great submissions overall, while Kai Kara-France is definitely more comfortable on the feet. He's coming off of 2 straight wins, and his last one was a huge win. I mean, he beat the former bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt. I know Cody Garbrandt's been kind of on the decline lately, but I mean, I'm still not going to take anything away from Kai Kara-France for beating a former champion. That's still a huge thing to do. Ultimately, I just think that Askar Askarov is the better fighter right now. He continues his dominance in the UFC, and I think he's going to win the fight by a 2nd round submission. The next fight I want to talk about is between 2 UFC veterans in Matt Brown and Brian Barberena. Both have had ups and downs in their UFC careers. Matt Brown definitely has had more success. Granted, he has had a lot more professional fights than Barberena. But Brown, I would say, is a little bit more of a well-rounded fighter. But both have a preference of keeping this fight on the feet. But obviously, that does play a big advantage for Matt Brown, being able to take this fight to the ground and have success that way. Both are coming off of wins. Both haven't been insanely active recently. Like I said, they're both veterans of the game. But ultimately, I do think Matt Brown's going to come out on top in this fight. He's got the edge in experience. I think he's a better striker. I think he's better on the ground. So I have Matt Brown winning this fight by a decision. Another great women's fight coming up. Jennifer Maia versus Manon Fiorot. This is going to be the toughest test for Fiorot by a mile. This is her first ranked opponent. And Jennifer Maia is the number 4 ranked women's flyweight right now. Fiorot has looked fantastic in her first 3 UFC fights. But again, those were against unranked fighters right now. Jennifer Maia, on the other hand, has all of her last 5 fights have been against top 10 opponents, and one of them was against Valentina Shevchenko, the best women's fighter on the planet. Obviously, she lost that one. She also lost 2 more to Katlyn Chookagian, who is the number 2 ranked flyweight right now. So she's not losing to slouches at this point in her career. Maia is the far more experienced fighter and probably the better, well-rounded fighter. While Fior is a fantastic striker, Maia can strike with the best of them. She can go to the ground, use jiu-jitsu. I think that will play a big advantage for Jennifer Maia, and I do think that she's going to kind of slow down. I shouldn't say stop, slow down Manon Fior for just a little bit. I think that this was a bit of a big jump for Manon Fior. I wish she would have seen someone maybe just outside the top 10 or someone borderline top 10 in the 8-9 range. But you never know what could happen. Like I said, Fior's on a tear right now. She's looked fantastic, but I think experience comes into play. And for this fight, next matchup, Neil Magny versus Max Griffin. Another fight between 2 well-rounded, experienced fighters. Magny is by far the more technical fighter, with Griffin having far more power in his punches. So I have a feeling this is going to be a lot more of a volume versus power type fight. I do think Magny has been on a pretty good streak lately, minus dropping 1 to Michael Chiesa last year. But ultimately, I think Neil Magny's, he has more experience. Like I said, he's the more technical fighter. He's very smart in the octagon, and he has a lot of success against strikers. Where it comes to wrestling, he can struggle a bit more against really good wrestlers, hence Michael Chiesa. So I'm going to go with Neil Magny in this fight against the power striker and Max Griffin. Sarah McMahon and Carol Rosa is the next fight I want to talk about. This one's really hard to judge for me. Sarah McMahon does not fight a whole lot. She hasn't fought in over a year. January 2021 was the last time she had a fight, and it was a loss. Granted, the loss was against current champ Juliana Pena in the bantamweight division, where Rose, on the other hand, doesn't have much UFC experience, but she has won every single one of her 4 fights in the UFC. This will be a great test for Carol Rosa. And if she can get past one of the veterans of this division, because Sarah McMahon has been in this division for a long time, she might have been in there since the beginning of the women's kind of revolution joining the UFC. McMahon's definitely going to try to get this fight to the ground. She's a great wrestler, where Rosa has great takedown defense, and I think that that's going to play a big factor in this fight. I believe Rosa has like a 91% takedown defense. So again, great takedown defense. I think it's going to play a huge factor in this fight, and I think that Carol Rosa is going to win this fight by a decision. The last fight I want to talk about on this card is Matthews Nichols versus David Devarak. This fight between 2 guys trying to creep on closer to the title picture in the flyweight division. Nichols has 2 wins against ranked opponents in Tim Elliott and Cape. Devarak is still fairly new to the UFC, but with that lack of experience he brings in, lack of experience in the UFC, I should say, he has quite a bit of professional experience, and he's coming in on his he's trying to get his 17th or 18th straight win in professional fights. Only 3 of those have come in the UFC, so take that however you want. Both are fairly well-rounded, but I think Devarak is going to go out and try to make a serious name for himself. This is his first ranked opponent that he's faced in the UFC, and I think he gets it done with a second-round submission. So, again, I'm very excited for this card. It's almost kind of hard to get insanely hyped after how great the London card. I know I keep going back to the London card, and I apologize, but I just can't get over how good this card actually was. But I still am very excited for this fight night. I do want to say next week's show will probably, or the next 2 weeks of this show will be a little bit shorter, judging that there is no fight night or pay-per-view in between the next fight night and then UFC 273, headlined by Volkanovski and the Korean Zombie. So I will only be giving my reaction video next week to the Curtis Blaydes Chris Daukaus fight night, and then next week I will be giving my predictions or the week after, I'll be giving my predictions for Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie. But other than that, thank you all for tuning in to episode 4 of Monday Night Fight Talk. You can find me on social media, on Instagram at Monday Night Fight Talk, on Twitter at MN Fight Talk. Both links will be in the description. If you want to see more content from me, I am on the Boelt every Friday at 4 p.m. I will also put that link for Squabo Says YouTube channel in the description. Again, Friday at 4 for the Boelt. And every once in a while, I will announce I go on Steezy A. Smith's YouTube channel. We do lives together also, and I will always let you guys know when I will be on his show. But other than that, thank you again for tuning in for another episode of Monday Night Fight Talk. I will see you same time, same place next week, 5 p.m. on YouTube.